Smith, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Yeah, food brings a lot of people together, huh? And thank you so much for affording me the opportunity to speak to some wonderful students. I had the pleasure of listening in, being a little on time, and just hearing you express yourself is so exciting. And I'm excited for you, this program, how it's impacting you. And then ultimately, as you're building personally and professionally, that you continue to reach out within community, because that's birthed inside of you. That's the 1-2 punch, as we say in the business, that, you know, while you're gathering, that you're also making sure that you're pouring into someone else or helping them on their journey. So again, thank you so much for the invite. I'm excited. I love seeing all of the different colors, all the different expressions that you have that pretty much kind of tell me a lot about you. I see music, I see friends, I see video games, I see athletes. I see so many different textures of who you are and who this group is. And that's exactly what I always strive to do with my company, Talented Soul Productions. I've been in television and film for about a good 20 plus years, and just always had the passion to make sure that people knew that specifically in my culture that we come in so many different forms. You know, we've seen on television how, you know, we play basketball, we sing, we do certain things that are very, as I would say, stereotypical. Yes, they do exist. But again, a lot of what I do is telling stories to make sure that all facets of who we are, those that don't fit in that box, still have a voice and still have a presence that can be extremely relevant and necessary in today's society. It's important that you know that you have a voice and that it may come in so many different ways, but as long as you express it. So again, by the power and the mediums of television and film, that's how a lot of my work has been done. So, Mr. Russell, I'll take any more, you know, inquiring.
So let's talk. Let's hear a little bit about your background. I know you worked at TV1 for some time and even BET here locally, I believe. So let's talk about some of the shows that you were a part of.
Yes, I mean, probably since I was around your ages, I knew that I wanted to be in television. I was very enamored with seeing myself. Now, I must admit, it wasn't as much as you see now. There were only maybe 1 or 2 shows that were on that had people like me. And then specifically for nightly news, there was an anchor by the name of Maureen Bunyan, and she just delivered the news so beautifully. And like I said, those images were few and far between. So a lot of my efforts in the beginning was to be on camera. And then also when Oprah had her show, excuse me, you had a lot of young women that, again, were seeing themselves present in television. So, you know, I was like, I want to be the next Oprah. And while that was great, and I did some things on camera in high school and also in college, I just felt like there was more to the story. I wanted to make sure that every actor that was selected, that there was a certain amount of control and power to make sure that how we looked on television was maintained. So that's where producing came in. And producing pretty much is that overall sensibility that if you have an idea, either if it's someone else's or yours, that you're literally taking it from its inception of a script, an idea, to finding the finances, making sure that the creative stays on point, hiring the crew, making sure all of the business aspects are taken care of, from contracts to vendors, all of those things, to the post element, to the graphics. I heard someone talking about gaming, making sure that those visuals are in alignment with the story that you're telling. So, and then obviously after you've completed it, then you find a home for it. So again, you know, producing is that umbrella that keeps the whole production together. And that's what I found a lot more passionate for me. It does involve being able to communicate a message. creatively, logistically, financially. It also involves being able to play nice with people. A lot of people call it politicking in its own way, but with good intent, ideally not any kind of malintent. You don't take that into anything. So those are the things that I've afforded myself over my career to be able to do. I started off right after college in an internship. Whereas I maintained those relationships. And I started off very entry level at BET. I'm from the DMV area, but I went to school in upstate New York. But what I did was in my junior and senior year, I had an internship at BET and also at Kiss FM because I was straddling the fence of radio, film, and television. So just being very specific and intentional about having internships at where my desire was. So because I stayed in contact with people and networked, right after college, there was a position open in the videotape library. And the videotape library is very much like McDonald's. And it's where all of the producers and some of the technical personnel would come in and get videotape and get source materials and get all of the elements that they would need to build the story. So, you know, you're dealing with high pressure, you're dealing with how to communicate and be on deadlines. But again, I took that just to get in the door and just being very grateful to even have anything after college. So what I would do is I would obviously take care of my day job. And then at night, I would moonlight, as we say. I would get with some of the producers that had shows on the air, like Rap City. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a little bit old school, but you know, Rap City, Video Soul, Access Granted, a couple of other shows. I would, after my working time, I would go and sit with those producers and I would learn from them. I would create the relationships. And I was really blessed that I had people that wanted to mentor me. So in any kind of relationship, I know a lot of people talk about mentors. It's one thing to learn from someone, but it's also important to, as the mentee, to give also, meaning give your personal excellence, give your time, give your focus, do some studying, you know, learn about your mentor. If you can, you know, take them for a walk, take them for some coffee. It's that mutual exchange and respect that really goes a long way. As you're building with the person. So that's what I did from a personal and professional standpoint. You know, being under that kind of tutelage was just invaluable. So after that, I had a former boss from Kiss FM who became in control at BET. And he was like, girl, you went to school for television and film and radio. You know, I know you did this as an entry level, but, you know, I have a position for you. And from there, I learned from him. He became my main mentor. I learned everything about the music video industry. At the time, it was that particular network was into playing music videos. And we decided all of the music videos that would run on a given show. And with that was a lot of power, but it was also a lot of temptation. People were desperate to be heard and to be seen on that particular network. So there were certain lessons that I learned as far as holding your integrity, being very professional, not owing anyone anything, not getting your name messy. All you have is your name, and making sure that you are in a position that best represents yourself and also the company. So that time for me, especially as a woman, the way people speak to you, how you engage yourself, these were all principles that I learned, you know, as I was building my career. It was, again, just a wonderful time because he, as a boss, afforded me to come up with different ideas for shows. You know, everything from Access Granted to top 20 down countdown shows, I should say. It was just a wonderful time of creating. And after that, I wanted to explore opportunities. So again, I put my net out there and said, hey, I'd love to go to New York. I'd love to go to LA. I sent all my stuff out there. And about 2 to 3 weeks later, I get a call back from VH1 and MTV, and they're like, "Hey, kid, you're good. We love your stuff, and we're having a show in New York, and we want you to come up and produce some things for us." So it was horrifying because all I knew was home, coming from this area. And even though I'd been to college in New York, I'd felt pretty comfortable, but it's just really ironic how when you're comfortable, what I would say, God will move you out to explore and to continue in your purpose. So that's exactly what happened. And it's amazing how when you say you want to do something, it will come up before you say, "Oh, you said you want to do this. So here it is. What are you going to do?" So that definitely was the case. So New York for me opened up extremely fast. And I left everything in 2 weeks, and I stayed on friends' floors in Brooklyn, to which I still love to this day. And just, as we would say, got into it. New York is a big city, and it can feel very lonely, but I'm so grateful that I did have family tribe, and I had now a burgeoning professional tribe that was helping me discover and get done what needed to get done. So when I got to New York, I was working on a show, and it was a Tupac show. And I actually had to go out to LA and start to travel and to look into his murder. And just how things would happen, the show became too expensive. So the day that I signed my lease in Brooklyn was the day that they canceled the show. Granted, my apartment in Brooklyn was more than my mother's mortgage back home. So I guess the moral of the story, as it will continue, is that life is going to throw you some curveballs, and you have to really, see where you're going to move in that. And I would say have faith and listen to direction and wise counsel. It's often a human sensibility to panic, and that's human to do so. But to make sure that you are grounded so that you may hear properly and know what your next move is. So after my panic, I figured that, this was all a move of God, and basically that, as they say, he doesn't take you anywhere without that support, literally. And I just kept it moving. And from there, I kept working on different networks and different shows. Actually, there was a joke in the audience that said, "Oh, you're the young lady we brought up," and then canceled the show. And in that, I would say, "Yeah, that's right. So you need to keep me working." So it was a combination of taking that interesting situation and definitely making lemons out of lemons, making lemonade out of lemons. Yeah. So I'm grateful for that too. But the bottom line is that throughout all aspects of your journeys, positive or negative, you should be learning. You should be pliable. You should be maintaining a sense of integrity. And ideally, like I said before, making sure that you're sharing your story so someone else can be encouraged. So again, New York became a blur. It was true to form that I just kept working and working and working for other people. And that was quite lucrative, to which I was grateful. However, I was like, I come from a home of entrepreneurs anyways. And I was like, oh, I could do this myself. I want my own business. So I went into business for myself. And again, it was extremely lucrative. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that you should always be growing. You should always be trying different things. You should always be partnering with people that are like-minded so that you could build and build together. So that's pretty much my story. I mean, I've gone in and out of different networks, being hired as an independent, as a producer, director. And then also my company has been hired to do major productions for different networks. And what I'm grateful for is the partnerships that have come along the way. It's amazing how, hindsight is 2020. But I found that the majority of my clients today were from relationships of the past. And there was something that they remembered about me that allowed them to trust me with their product. The bottom line is that a lot of times when you get a gig, when you get the partnership, it comes down to trust. So I just really want to maintain, I really want to enforce integrity in all of your dealings, not perfection, because there's going to be times where you bump your head. And in fact, you always learn from bumping your head. There was a time when I was afraid to fail. But it was out of those failures that I knew that I did not want to do that again, really reevaluating it and saying, hey, let's see how I can pivot this. Let's see how perhaps me, instead of taking on the whole production or thinking that I had it all together, let's respect that in any good organization. That's the reason why there are department heads. Department heads are people that you hire from ideally the cream of the crop, the best at who they are. And you afford them the space to function and for their gift to bloom. So that to me is the perfect production. That's the perfect symmetry where you have yourself with vision, execution, however you bring yourself to the table. And then you have department heads, you have partners, you have allies and or a tribe that you can do great work with. So I hope that helps. It started from the beginning to kind of where I am now, but I am a big proponent that no matter where you are, you're always learning. So while there's so many different things that I've been tapped to do that I'm extremely grateful for, the learning process is ongoing.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I think that journey is amazing, and I'm happy to see where you are now. We do have a few questions coming in, but I'm going to ask one more question. With two, I'm going to make a point first. I see that ATL on your shoulder, one of my favorites. So wanted to point that out. But the premise of this program is really to get our young people ready for the workforce. That's the soft skills and those hands-on skills that they would need. We've been doing some career exploration. And as part of that was some of the main themes that have come out of that are, being able to market yourself, building that network, and mentorship. You actually touched on all three of those, but could you venture out there to say, of those three, which one do you think is paramount, has been paramount to your success, or that our youth should primarily focus on at this point?
You mean from a soft skill standpoint, or?
Well, yeah. So as far as marketing, they've created their own companies, and a lot of people are just kind of exploring where they want to go in their career. So is it something that, marketing themselves, or is it the networking piece, or finding someone that can kind of mentor them throughout the process, or is it a combination?
That's a setup. It's all of it, because you should go big. To me, I believe that especially now, there's so many things at your fingertips that are amazing. You have social media, period. That's free marketing. That wasn't afforded as much when I was coming up, but definitely I take advantage of that now. And what we're now calling a brand, to me, was the same language that we would call, being who you are, and make sure that that resonates in everything that you do. So yes, networking is key, and there's different styles to it too. There's some people that can walk into the room and just command it. Okay, there's other people that can strike up a conversation, very intimately. So be encouraged that both work. Okay, but it's how you communicate that message and make the most of that time. You don't have to be anybody outside of yourself, but if you are being given feedback and or a push from someone because they see it in you, don't always say, well, that's just who I am. Okay, try to work with that and really receive what the person is saying to you. That may give you the extra push, and then you'll discover something about yourself you didn't even know that you had. And I also want to encourage repetition. The more that you do something, the more you get comfortable with it. That's the bottom line. And again, you continue to learn from that. And it becomes, you may discover a skill set that you thought you never had, but because you did it so much, it's now something that you passionately enjoy. And I'm a firm believer that, you play how you practice. So, if you want to get in and do all the different, you don't want to see me kind of do my old basketball stuff or whatever. But the bottom line is that or any athletic or anything that you do, you should study it. You should practice it so that when you're out there to play, it comes back as muscle memory, as all the things to afford you to be the best in that skill set. So for networking, again, I think it's tantamount. I think that you can find, I'm a believer in the cold call. Calling, let's say, whatever your ideal job is, call and get information about if they're hiring, if they have internships, what's the process. Call them. And then obviously electronically research them too, okay? Those are great ways. As you get older, you can go to networking events, but I'm not sure, Xavier, in between that time, I'm sure that there are things that you could find online if you have interest, and you can watch a TED Talk, or you can, again, all of this is about the research of what you love and what you adore. It's what we call studying the craft. So all of that will help prep you for when you speak to someone, you'll come with a little bit of knowledge, okay? So that's for the networking part. The soft skills of communication. Again, everyone has their own communication style. Sometimes people, their language is literally the language from the oratory standpoint. Sometimes people get your language and the proof is in the pudding. I have several friends that are painters, and they might not be able to express themselves or communicate in front of thousands of people and talk about their piece. But when they take off the cloth and you see their painting, that is their communication. That is their expression. So again, I want to encourage you to know that you can still take up space and also express yourself and communicate yourself so that your voice is out there. And if you are feeling that you may need the language skills, again, there are ways to research and to better yourself from online courses, simply pushing yourself to do something that you would normally not do to, again, grow. And then from the marketing standpoint, like you said, if you are, marketing from a visual standpoint, if you're saying that your brand is quiet and zen and reserved, then your visuals, your color palette, your movement of your visuals should reflect that. Our attention span is almost gone. And I can say from being an executive at a television studio and network, people are always moving. And the most that you can really grab their time and their attention usually comes in short form. So with that, when I look at a deck or I look at something, I should be able to gather an emotion, a feeling of what you're trying to present. So as far as your brand and your marketing, and then conversely, there may be someone who is more edgy, someone who says, hey, I have an idea, or this is how I'm expressing myself. All of the materials that you bring and put together should reflect that. So I guess in the marketing standpoint, it should be consistent. And then also there's times in your life where you go through seasons. You may be this way in this particular season versus another. But whatever season you're in, try to align it with what you're trying to communicate to people.
Good, great, thank you. So we have quite a few questions here. I'm going to start with Mr. Andre. I think he raised his hands first, but let me just kind of shout out, just before you get started, Andre, we're going to, we also have questions from Joshua, Marissa, Kyles, and Leslie. We're going to come to you in that order. So after Mr. Andre is done with his question, we have Joshua, Marissa, Kyles, and Leslie, and we want you to ask any questions that you have for Ms. Smith. All right, Andre.
I was going to ask, well, I want to table mine and let the students get theirs in first, and I can circle back around later.
All right, sounds good. So Joshua, are you prepared to ask Ms. Tia Smith your question?
Yeah, I was wondering if there are any times when you had a hard time having faith and you felt like maybe giving up.
Wow. Great question, Joshua. Yes. Actually, there are several times. But even when I spoke to the whole New York situation, I had felt like God literally was leading me to New York. It was something that was in my quiet time, in my prayer of wanting to shift and wanting to move. So when the opportunity afforded itself, yes, this is awesome. I'm in New York. And like I said, paying a mortgage that was more than my mother's and literally signing it on that day that the show got canceled. I wanted to go back home. I instantly said, I didn't sign up for this. I don't know if this is you again. And I don't appreciate this, period. I don't appreciate it because there was supposed to be a plan. And it's only because God had done some incredible things before, and knowing who He is, that He wouldn't leave me in that state. So that was a major, major testing for me. And I'm telling you, because of that trust, and how I was continually given snapshots and encouragement, and someone would call me and say, "Oh, I heard you still doing it, girl. Stay with it." To the times when the rent was due, and I would get a call from someone I hadn't spoke to when I was back at BET and other networks in easily 5 years. I would get a phone call and say, "Hey, Tia, can you come Midtown? We heard you got a camera and that you shoot. Name your price." Rent was paid plus more. So it's amazing the proving that God will do in your life. So things like that, He affords us to remember who He is when He's just who He is anyway. So that faith was ongoing. And there's still times where there's an eyebrow raise. I think that's somewhat of the human factor. But again, it's the remembrance, it's the ongoing presence that affords myself and so many other people to keep on going. So, make sure that you're aware and that you're open to hear in the ways that you're going to be led.
Great question, Josh. Thanks.
Yes,
Tia.
thank you.
All right, Marissa, are you prepared to ask your question?
Yes, I was wondering, do you feel like there's actually people that will sit down and listen to a small business and understand where we're coming from and help us like expand our business?
I do. I think that research is very much a part of what needs to be done. There's so many times where, and I'm just speaking from the television standpoint right now, that I would get pitches from different content creators and they had nothing to do with the network. So I'm like, do you watch the network? I know you want a deal. I know you want to get your program on, but it's really important to be aligned. So, if I'm trying to do something on basketball, I'm not going to go to a hockey network. And I'm trying to tell you, I would receive so many different pitches and things that were not in alignment. And that's a waste of everybody's time. And it's very telling. Okay. It's not focused. But I would say that, yes, as you do your research, as you find out of different programs or different businesses that are entertaining the specificity of what your business brings, go for it. And in fact, even if you don't hear that they have a program going on, go for it. I do believe that sometimes your effort plus the proper timing and the communication of your vision and the excitement that you bring to the table will make people believers. That's an unstoppable force. There's so many times, I can tell you, I've received a lot of different pitches of people wanting to get things on air, and I can always tell if someone is really passionate about what they're bringing to the table, and it's like fire. You know what I mean? Your job is to go in and to convince them they should be down. Like, you're missing out if you're not a part of this. So to answer your question, yes, I think that it is a beautiful marriage of you identifying where you want to do business, research, and forming those relationships, and getting the meeting.
And one thing I kind of want to piggyback on is you can't discount passion. I had a boss that told me once before, they can teach anybody the job, but you can't teach passion. So, Marissa, and I know you and your group, you guys are very passionate about what you guys are doing. So there's a bright future for you guys.
Indeed, that's exciting.
All right, great question. Let's come to Kyle's. Mr. Collier, are you ready for us?
Yes, sir, I'm ready. So my question is, when it comes to leaving home for a job opportunity, because you mentioned having to leave to go back to New York after getting the call or the email, I'm sorry. What advice can you give towards that, like when it comes to leaving home? And other than like being out of your comfort zone, what advice can you give to that?
Do it while you're scared. It's really easy to say, but I'm doing it kind of every day, I must admit. It wasn't easy, but I said I wanted it, and I would hate to be in a position of regret and not do it. Now, we never say that we're supposed to compare ourselves to other people, but look, other people are going for it. Other people are going for it less qualified, and they don't have your sauce. So why not you be a part of the dream that you say you want to have? You can do it. It's not easy. Now, ideally, I mean, I don't know everybody's home situation. The prayer is that you have support. If not, you have, meaning that you have support, directly within your family, or that you have other people that have just poured into you that will support you. But you've got to believe that you deserve it and that you deserve different. We've also come from a very strong people that took chances. They literally died for you to have opportunities. They were literally denied for you to have opportunities. You owe it to yourself and you owe it to them to continue the legacy. This is nothing new to us. So you need to take up space and make sure that your voice gets out there and that you shine so brightly that you encourage the next generation.
Good.
Thank you.
Yes.
The questions are still coming in. So we have Leslie, Cannon, and Miles in that order. Leslie, are you ready?
Yeah. Hi. What are the pros and cons of your job?
Pros and cons. I would say cons are, I'm gonna be quite frank, because in television and film, some people, lovely clients, believe that you flip a switch and you have a whole production. There's a lot of education that has to come along with this, respectively. So, and that's fine to educate, but you also need proper resources many times, and you also need direction so that we can work together. So what I am finding is that a con a lot of times are level setting expectations, and making sure that people, yes, you can look at a certain production, but if you're not coming with certain things and or work to be nimble and crafty enough to get to that, it just needs to be level set. So that to me is a con. The pros are literally, after working for people, being in and out of different systems, going back into business for myself, I can literally set my day different. There's something about picking and choosing the projects that I want to be a part of. I've done so much work putting out other people's vision. Now I'm grateful that it was collaborative, that I brought creative aspects to it. I developed it. They were my babies, but yes, at the end of the day, it was still owned by someone else. So the sense of ownership is huge for me. The sense of being able to regulate my day, to partner with people that I want to partner with so that we can really do some compelling work. So all of that is extremely liberating. And especially where I am at this age, it's just a wonderful thing to decide what you want to do.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, we have Cannon. Cannon, what's your question for Ms. Smith?
My question is, what has been your favorite moment of your career?
That's a good one. I think one of the favorite moments has been doing shows at the White House. You know, I did 2 shows under the Obama administration, and it was incredible. I mean, we all know what the White House stands for. We all know Barack Obama and the incredible presidency and just what that meant for us and still does to this day. And to be able to walk into the White House, I won't say with free reign, but literally have access to creating shows and productions in there was beyond humbling, and something I will never forget. And then meeting him, the first time that I went to the White House and met him and Michelle, as we say, First Lady Michelle. I didn't realize that I was smiling the whole night. The next morning, my face hurt. It was crazy. And just seeing the excellence and the precision to which the White House was in order. But yet, even though there were so many dynamics of precision, as I mentioned, it just felt really welcoming also. So that was amazing. And then when I did a second show, for him to say, "Hey, what are you doing back in here? Do I need to call somebody? Like, seriously, do you remember me? Like, if you didn't, you made me feel like it." So, I mean, that was incredible. You're talking about the most powerful person of the free world, and our first Black president, you know, with that kind of sentiment. And again, being able to do something in a creative space was amazing and unforgettable.
Yeah, we have a couple of more amazing questions coming in. I think you'll really like this next one. So we have Miles and then D'Angelo right after that. So Miles, what's your question?
Hi. My question is, have you ever encountered someone that didn't believe in you at any point?
Wow. Yes, many. I would say initially, you know, I had spoken about how my former boss kind of pulled me up in the ranks when I was at the entry-level job. But there was a lot of people that didn't appreciate that he did that, because the way that they saw me, I was the girl in the videotape library. How dare he, you know, pull me into a creative space or one of the most coveted parts of the music video library, the music programming department. And so what they didn't know is that I went to school for it. And what they didn't know is that I was dope, period. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you're always going to be having people that underestimate you, but you have to keep going. You have to keep learning. And even to this day, as I've shifted a lot more into film and doing movies, on the film side, producing is slightly different, okay? So in film, the producer is the procurer of finances, doing some of the talent deals. They have more of a long-armed, still very effective and necessary, but a different approach to the film, a different way in per se. And the director is the person who is calling the shots, who's working with the actors, who's ensuring that the vision is moved forward, okay? So when I direct, and specifically as a woman, there's many times that my male counterparts will question what I need. And I know they wouldn't do that for a male director. I know they wouldn't. So it's where I have to be very clear and remind them that this is what I want and this is what's going to make it effective. And that's the way it's going to be. So it's very much different plays in the different genres of television and film that I've had to pivot and make sure that, again, that I represent myself, and then ultimately that the project is done professionally, on time, creatively, and that, you know, I'm pleased and also the client is pleased.
All right, we're getting down to our last two questions in the interest of time. We really appreciate the time that you're spending with us and some great information that you're sharing. So,
oh, no problem. These kids are great.
Yeah, they are. They are. So we have two more questions. We have D'Angelo, and then we'll get back to you, Andre. If you still have your question, you'll wrap it all up. So D'Angelo, what's your question?
My question is, if you could like start all over, is there anything you would do differently?
If I could start all over, that's wonderful. And it's so interesting. You're onto something, D'Angelo. I'm working on a short now that's very reflective. So as I'm speaking to you now, it's kind of helping me with my script. So thank you. I would not accept no as much as I had professionally. There were times where I should have fought a little bit more for a given project, for myself, for my pay. And that's mostly the biggest reflection that I would say is a regret and or something that I would definitely do differently. There's skills that I bring to the table that are competitive with any man or any other colleague, again, that I just kind of took the back seat on and just be happy for the opportunity. So again, yes, you should be grateful, but you should also recognize what you uniquely bring to the table. And that comes from a lot of good counsel and, again, research to see what other people are making. But it's making sure that you're not discounting yourself while you're playing at the table. So that's the biggest thing. The no aspect, even if there was a project that I had, and saying, okay, well, that's fine. You know, I didn't hear back from them, maybe not following up as much as I could have, because the person over there is following up and they're believing more in their project. Some of their tactics may be differently, but there's a few times where I definitely could have followed up more and not taking no for an answer. And then what is so horrible is 2 to 3 years later, you see something similar that you pitched, that your idea was. It may be spot on, or it may be just a little inflection of it drives you crazy. Lesson learned, won't do that again, okay? So that's the moral to the story. So as I learned, that's why I'm throwing it to you. Don't take the no. Keep pushing. Know that you have value. Know that you you're worthy enough to take up that space. Know that you have something to say any way you want to deliver it, and put it out there.
Good stuff. And I can attest to that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say thank you for that, because it's like I'm exercising out my short right now. So I appreciate that.
And I'm sure all of us, especially the staff here, can attest to, there's been many times with me that I pitch an idea or I say, hey, let's do it this way. And they say, no, that's not going to work. We've tried it before. And then a year or 2 or 3, you see exactly what you pitched. And it troubles you. But again, just, you know, you have to know and have a belief in what your thoughts and your pitches are, and just what you want to instill in a company. And if the company doesn't get it, do what you did and do what I did. Start your own.
Start your own.
Do it yourself. Mr. Andre, do you want to put a bow on this for us?
Well, originally I was going to ask a question about streaming and the future of that, but I'm going to actually just pivot back and just want to say a big thank you to Ms. Smith for particularly emphasizing how, when things look like they weren't going to be kind of going in a certain direction, out of nowhere, people kind of came up and had opportunities. I will say that I think that spiritually, I like the way you kind of focused on that, but also I want to say that I know it's a lot about your talent and your background in terms of how each interaction that you had with someone, it meant something that could lead to something else. And we've been trying to emphasize that for the duration of our time with our youth this summer. And so I think no other career emphasizes that much more than media production, where sometimes it looks like it's a gig economy, so to speak, and everything is built on something else you've done in the past. And I think with your skill and determination, I can see why you get offers. And I want to thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't take it for granted. I mean, a part of business and you getting the gig is the trust, and trust comes from, as people now say, a vibe. But I believe that you can't knock integrity. You can't knock it. And unfortunately, because there's so many people that don't operate in integrity, you're like the unicorn. And
yes.
You know, and that's not a comfortable standard to me. Let your yes be yes. Your word is bond. If you say you're going to do something, you need to do it. Yes. You know, for client's sake and for your name's sake. You need to treat people right. Everyone always says, oh, you know, treat someone like you want to be treated. No, have some empathy. And think about how you would want to be handled. Do you want someone to go off on you if something doesn't come together? Or, you know, there's so many different principles if you would just do what you feel that you want, because that person is a human too. If you say that you want to do business, you need to be on time. That's a huge reflector.
Yes. Honestly,
if I wasn't in television and film, I have a double minor in sociology. And so I love the study of people. And it's said that people who are always late, that's extremely narcissistic. You think that you're the only person, you're wasting other people's time. Right. So you don't want to enter into that. All of these are even body language, the way you hold yourself. You know, there's so many different ways that things can be interpreted. So as you develop, not be perfect, but as you develop these soft skills, I want you to be very aware of how people see you and what you truly should be projecting out. If you have a problem, if it's on set or wherever your environment is, nobody likes a complainer. Yes, you can note the issue, but at least have an A and B of a solution. And if it's not a sure shot solution, at least work towards it with people together. Okay, so all of these different ways of collaborating and again, representing yourself with integrity has afforded me and a lot of the tribe that I hang with and do business with. That's what keeps the calls coming and making the right decisions at that time. There's so many projects that have been on the table, and I'm talking about lucrative projects that I've had to walk away from. And it was hard because some of it was in New York, like I said, when the rent was due. But even now, some things that just do not line up with who I am and what I want out there. And as you know now, when it's out there, it's out there. So you have to make sure that it aligns up. It's something that I wouldn't be able to sleep well at night with. Or, you know, I can't get involved in that. I don't care how much money it costs, because it's gonna hamper my name and the reputation that I've been afforded to build. That's sweeter than that quick money any day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with that, that's a great way to wrap this up. We want to say from our staff that we really, really appreciate you coming and spending this time with us. I'm sure our youth are going to bomb the chat with thank yous right now. But we want to get Mr. Kyles Collier to come in and give you a thank you from our entire youth group. Kyles, are you prepared for that?
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come in and talk to us. We've had a couple other guests, but you definitely one of my favorite because of the way you explain things. Some of the things that you said definitely they're keying in on me, and I know some other kids as well, because some of them are about to start the college process, and I'm going into college, so working on our careers and stuff. I just wanted to say thank you so much for that, and it's definitely beneficial to all of us.
Thank you, Kyle, and everyone. I'm grateful. I do not take this lightly. I know that we are dealing with the now and the next. I'm excited for you guys to impact I'm excited for you guys to explore, to take up space, to know that your voice can be shared and known and has a place in this world. So continue on, and you make us all proud.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much. If you see the chat, they're coming in, they're thanking you, they're leaving hearts, they're saying God bless you. So really, really good bunch. And I'm speaking on behalf of our staff. We really, again, we can't say it enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you for spending this time with us. We got you out of here just before 12, so they gave you some time to get you a bite. But I'm going to ask one thing before I go, and I'm going to say this for the girls and probably some of the guys. I'm loving your hair color, girl. Is that your favorite color?
Purple is my color.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of different things. You know, we have fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm afforded to be in an industry where it's received. And I don't know, even if it wasn't, I'd sneak it in some kind of way. But thank you so much. And I'm so excited for Permission and how you're growing and the steps that you've taken and the leaps of faith. It's invaluable. It's necessary. And, you know, we're all pleased. So thank you for all that you do.
Good deal. Good deal. All right, let me get some instructions here. We're